Oh, ready to start. Okay. I think we were thinking the same thing at the same time. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'd like to call the August 2019 Committee on Accreditation meeting to order. Will the secretary call the roll?
I wasn't ready. Jose Luis Alvarado.
Present.
Cynthia Amos. Jomeline Balatayo. Kathy
Here.
Gracia. Katrine Chakowski.
Here.
Cheryl Forbes.
Here.
Bob Fraley. Mike Hillis.
Here.
Marty Martinez. Here. Anna Moore.
Here.
Gerard Morrison. Iris Riggs. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. That's good news. And we're going to send our good thoughts to Bob Fraley today, as he is at last minute had a family emergency and couldn't join us. So sending our good thoughts to you. Just a reminder, this is a teleconference meeting. So we have some different logistics today for our meeting because there are numerous places from where members are joining the meeting. We would like you to know that we are going to mute your microphones to eliminate any background noise that may get in the way of others hearing what is being said by other speakers. In order to speak, we need you to indicate such by raising your hand so we know who to call on. Terry will be monitoring this, so we'll make sure to catch everyone who would like to speak on a topic. In addition, anyone who may be joining the meeting via technology who is not a committee member, please know that we will be muting you as well. Also, just like in an in-person meeting, this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting ends, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. I would like to let all members know that on each action item, the Bagley-Keene provisions require that we take a roll call vote, so we will be doing that today. Before we begin, I'd like to welcome two new members to the COA. Our two new members are Mike Hillis from California Lutheran University and Marty Martinez, Sonoma County Office of Education. We will get to see them in person at our next meeting in the fall, but their terms of office has started as of July 1st, and we have been orientating them to this role this morning. So they are joining us in person today in Sacramento, and we'd like to welcome you. At the October meeting, we'd love to hear more about each of you, who you are and your thoughts about joining the COA. But for now, is there anything you'd briefly like to say to our committee?
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And what was your name?
I'm sorry, Mike Hillis, and Cal Lutheran University, and very glad to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marty Martinez from the Sacramento County Office of Education, and I'm glad to be here as well.
I'm so glad you're glad. Awesome. Thank you. All right. That takes us to item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. The first, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the August meeting? Am I calling on the people?
We see Jose Luis has raised his hand to motion to approve the agenda.
Second by Katrine. All those, we will now do actually a roll call vote. In favor say aye, opposed say no.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Jomeline Balatayo.
Aye.
Katrine Chakowski.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
All right.
Motion
carries.
carries.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So item 4 are the co-chair and member reports.
Actually, we need to do item 3.
Yeah, I got it. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 2019 meeting? Motion by Cheryl Forbes, second by Jomeline Balatayo. All those in favor say aye. Oh, sorry. Any corrections or changes? We don't have. We will now do a roll call vote. Sorry, I have to get used to that one. In favor say aye. Opposed say no.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Jomeline Belatayo.
Aye.
Katrine Chakowski.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Abstain.
Marty Martinez.
Abstain.
Anna Moore.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, that takes us to item 4, which are the co-chair and members' reports. Do any of the members have anything to report? Just having a great summer, everybody? All right, well, thank you. Item 5 are the staff reports. Does the staff have any items to report, Ms. Clark and or Ms. Sullivan?
We have a very short report today. We'll do more at the next meeting when we're all in person. I do want to announce that this is Lynette Roby's last meeting as a staff member to the COA and that she is retiring as of early October, and the COA is not meeting again until after that. We do have some hopes that Lynette might be willing to come back as a retired annuitant in the future, which could include some accreditation work. But Lynette, would you like to say anything at your last meeting of the COA?
I don't really have much to say other than thank you, and this has been fun. Actually, I think that's the first word that comes to my mind. And I've met some wonderful people, and staff here has been so extremely supportive. So I've just enjoyed my time. It's a little bittersweet, but it's just circumstances that I need to retire. So thank you very much. Personal circumstances, not here. Things here are great. So thank you so much to everyone.
Lynette, thank you so much for all that you've done to make our meetings succinct and enjoyable, and your warm smile. We'll miss you and wish you the best in your retirement.
Hi, this is Erin. I just had a couple of things to say. Just to keep you updated, committee, we are working on currently pairing reviewers for program review. Program review submissions are due October 15th for the red cohort, which are the institutions that will have their site visits in 2020 and 2021. Our first program review session will be October 30th, so just after your next meeting. Between now and your next meeting, we will have 3 site visits in October. And then 2 more before the end of the year. The first site visit will be September 28th through October 1st, and depending on our ability to turn around a report, you may or may not have a report from that site visit already at your October meeting.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan and Ms. Clark. Any other items from the staff? No? All righty. That takes us to item 6, which is the program status changes. This item is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 includes items for action by the COA, which include requests to withdraw, requests to reactivate inactive programs, and requests to add a new content area to an existing program. Part 2 provides information on programs that have transitioned to revised program standards and programs that have elected to change to inactive status. These items are for notification only and require no action by the COA. So Part 1, Section A is program withdrawals. This is for action, and there are 3 program sponsors withdrawing 3 programs. California State University Dominguez Hills Education Specialist, Resource Specialist added authorization effective August 6, 2019. Dos Palos Oro Lomo Joint USD closed teacher induction effective August 6, 2019. And University of California Riverside added authorization early childhood special education effective May 2nd, 2019. This section is for action. Are there any recusals? Yay. Do I have a motion? Motion by Jose, second by Member Katrine. All right, we have to do a roll call vote. In favor, say aye. Opposed, say no.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Jose?
Jose.
Aye.
Jomeline Belatayo.
Aye.
Katrine Chakowski.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye. Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Section B is the program requesting reactivation. There is one program sponsor requesting reactivation. California State University Northridge, Specialist Teaching, Reading and Literacy Added Authorization, effective August 6, 2019. Terry, can you discuss the note on this particular program?
Yes, this actually was a mistake on the part of Northridge. They always intended to offer the full reading and literacy leadership credential and did not realize that the added authorization program was a subset of the full reading and literacy leadership credential. Even though they withdrew this program, they've always been teaching the content. There are 10 standards that define those two programs. Standards 1 through 5 are about the reading and language arts added authorization. Standards 6 through 10 are about the reading and literacy leadership specialist credential. They've always been teaching to all 6 standards. Their candidates have been assessed against all. And when we had the site visit last year, we explained the situation and said, we really need to get the RLAA back on the books. And they understood that. And so they are requesting that they be reactivated. And the reality is there's been no change in leadership. The program is still being offered. It has been offered all along. And so staff does encourage the committee to also approve this reactivation request.
Terrific. Thank you. Are there any recusals for this item? Do I have a motion to approve the reactivation request for CSU Northridge's Reading and Literacy Added Authorization? The motion by Member Forbes, second by Member Alvarado. We will now take a roll call vote. In favor, say aye. Opposed, say no.
Jose Luis Alvarado.
Aye.
Jomeline Belatayo.
Aye.
Katrine Chakowski.
Aye.
Cheryl Forbes.
Aye.
Mike Hillis.
Aye.
Marty Martinez.
Aye.
Anna Moore.
Aye. Motion carries. Section C is adding a new content area. We have no institutions requesting to add a new content area to an existing program. The next two sections, D and E, are for notification purposes only. No action is required. Section D is programs transitioning, and at this time, there are no programs requesting to transition at this time. Same for Section E, programs moving to inactive status. There are no requests to move programs to inactive status. That takes us to item 7. We're marching through this agenda, which is the discussion of questions provided by the committee to Fortune School. Director Terry Clark will present this item. She is joined by institutional representatives, Dr. Roquenito Codine, Dr. Angela Williams, Codine, and Mrs. Carmi Preston, Coordinator of Teacher Education. Also in the audience, we have Margaret Fortune, President CEO, Bonnie Benson, Chief Financial Officer, Aaron Sipes, FSE Instructor and Special Ed Consultant, FSE alumni, and FSE faculty. Ms. Clark, will you begin, please? And are there any recusals? No. Ms. Clark?
There is a recusal on my part.
Committee member Martinez has recused himself.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. At the June meeting, you'll remember that you asked a number of questions of Fortune School of Education for the 3 teacher preparation programs that were approved at that meeting. The preliminary multiple subject intern program, preliminary single subject intern program, and the preliminary education specialist mild to moderate disabilities intern program. You had a couple days after the meeting to collate all your questions. You got them to Ms. Hickey, who then went and shared them with Fortune School of Education. And all of the questions that you asked are in Appendix A. Fortune School then had time to pull together responses, develop some additional documentation, and that is provided for you in Appendix B. You'll notice also in the middle of the page on the item, we've suggested that if you're going above and beyond the questions that are already in the item with the responses, if you could think about the common standard and or program standards that the questions relate to, because that'll be the easiest way for staff to keep track of things and for the representatives from Fortune School to know what it is they're responding to, because all programs and institutions are held to the common standards and the adopted program standards. At the bottom of page 1 of the item, you'll note that staff is recommending you discuss the questions, ask additional questions if you have them, and then we've suggested there's 1 of 3 possible actions based on what you believe, what you understand after you've had this discussion today. Questions are shown there on pages 3 and 4. The submission starts on page 5. And then it's really up to you now. Would you like Fortune to do a short presentation here at the beginning, or would you like to discuss the questions that are in the If Co-Chair Moore could direct us.
A short presentation by Fortune would be appreciated.
Okay, when you start the first time, could you identify yourself for the record? And then future times, you don't need to identify yourself again.
Perfect. So I'm Dr. Hotneto. I'm one of the co-deans for Fortune School of Education. So we thank you for the opportunity to respond to your questions. And these questions you presented address 3 major areas: subject matter pedagogy, collaboration with other institutions, and the education specialist program. And these questions also give us an opportunity to dive deeper into our own programs and look at it more critically. So we address your concerns in 3 ways. First, we made punctual changes. Consider, for example, the review done to the end of the course survey. We had 1 item addressing all TPEs. We added items for each one of the TPEs so we can have actually more detailed insight on that. We also changed the service agreement that our instructors sign when they're hired. We want to make sure that they meet the requirements for the new annual evaluation, and also the involvement with course syllabus review is stated for them. Second, we also did some structural changes. We've expanded the scope and sequence of our courses, the general education programs, to include specific courses on subject matter pedagogy. We submitted samples of core elements of courses so you can have an idea. And I'd like to highlight that the last time we were here, a member made a comment about how our courses are generically linked to the TPEs. This time, we want to make sure that each learning outcome is aligned to specific elements of TPEs, not only TPE number 6, but TPE number 6, element 1. We went to that level of depth. We are also submitting a copy of the announcement for hiring new instructors. The qualifications for them are there. But I think the third and the most important change we made has to do with the systems of continuous improvement. We developed systems that have to do with coursework, instructors' evaluation, and collection of feedback by graduates. We submitted to you the annual course syllabus review protocol, which includes a detailed roadmap on how we are going to ensure that the courses we offer at Fortune reflect current best practices and also the most recent research. We also submit to you the faculty evaluation guidebook, and there's a detailed information and the forms faculty are going to submit to us and how we can support them in their continuous development. And we also submitted the new recent graduate survey, which addresses specific elements of the subject matter pedagogy requirements. And of course, the overall satisfaction of graduates with our program. So these continuous improvement processes are overarching. They touch the core elements of the education we provide at Fortune. And for this very reason, the implementation will take time. A full cycle of revisions of the courses and also a full cycle of revisions of evaluation of instruction will take about 1 year to make sure that every single course is revised and the new version of it, next time it's offered, is really aligned to specific elements of the standards and frameworks so that we fully satisfy that requirement. But in addition to these three approaches, we also made sure to include more evidence to back up our claims. So, for example, question 6 that talks about the partnerships we have with educational institutions, K-12 and higher ed. We submitted more elements, more items. For example, we submitted a letter from the president of Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, Dr. Armstrong. We also submitted a statement from the Center for Educational Policy Research at Harvard University, and also detailed information on our MOUs with more than 60 school district partners. So we really hope that the lengthy and detailed documents we provide to you have fully addressed your concerns, and we are here today with our team to clarify any lingering questions you may have about the items you submit in writing. Thank you.
Co-Chair Moore, may I suggest that the other people at the table also introduce themselves and their area of responsibility so that all committee members know who's here at the table available to answer questions?
That would be terrific. Thank you.
Dr. Angela Williams, co-dean focusing on clinical practice, particularly supervision, mentors, along with the pre-service and district intern program.
Carmi Preston, Coordinator of Teacher Education. I'm responsible for all of the logistics around the program, as well as credentialing for all of the students and student records.
Erin Sipes, Education Specialist Faculty.
Marilyn Delgado, also Educational Specialist Faculty.
All right, thank you. Nice to have you all here. I'd like to provide an opportunity for the COA members to ask any clarifying questions at this time. Yes.
Could I ask, this is Terry again, could I ask maybe that we start with question 1 and move through the document so that we stay somewhat organized since we're in so many different places?
Sure. So any questions on or comments on question 1, which is on page 9? Actually begins on page 8. Yes, Member Alvarado.
So this is actually a question, but it comes up before page 8. Where there was a comment about the engagement of other IHEs in the program, and there's a description of a higher education committee on page 7. And there's a link that has the members of that committee. The description mentions that it consists of Fortune School's education staff, faculty, and various stakeholders. However, when you click on the link and look at the membership, it only consists of Fortune School of Education faculty and staff and administrators. There's no outside member. So I was wondering if there could be some clarification on that.
Ms. Clark, could you do the calling of responses there since I can't see the room?
Definitely. Dr. Nato looks like he's ready to speak to this.
Yes. Well, we have the faculty and also all the people we present on that list. And also we do invite specialists whenever we have a topic that requires someone who with specialty extra and to add to our conversation, to clarify and to guide us, we do invite other people, specialists.
One of the reasons why we use the term stakeholders is because they're various and broad. So we may bring in folks that are, again, specialists on a particular subject matter, and also others in our conversation that have had some experience. So on any different occasion, there may be an alumnus that we invite to have that conversation. Really, if you think about it in terms of the Higher Education Committee does a lot around consistent oversight and quality control for the entire program. If you think about it like that, that's why we have the broad term stakeholder, because there are many that we invite.
Right, thank you. All right, any other questions from the COA on item question 1?
Katrina had her hand up. Yes.
Okay. Member Tchaikovsky?
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, I appreciate the intent to revise course descriptions in the face of an expectation for more content-specific pedagogical instruction for teacher candidates. I think it's really critical, obviously, right now with Common Core implementation at the forefront of our concerns. And related to what Member Alvarado has just asked, I saw on page 10 a posting for an adjunct instructor, which looks like it speaks directly to this expectation for more content-specific pedagogy. But what I see in the job posting is it lists content-specific seminars in like 5 different subject areas. So I guess my question is, are you looking to find IHE representatives to deliver this content-specific pedagogical instruction to your candidates in specific areas? Or again, is this more like a generalist posting? Because it looks very generalized, which I think doesn't necessarily support expertise from IHE representatives in specific subject areas, which I think is what question number 1 is all about.
I'd like to clarify your question in the sense that the commitment with IHEs of institutions of higher education have to do with Common Standard 1. And actually there's a question about that. So I am not following the connection between having Common Standards 1 representatives of higher education institutions with our job posting. It really, for me, doesn't follow. Can someone please clarify to us where in these standards there's a requirement on that?
Well, I was, if I can follow up, since I asked that question, I was looking for information in your response about who would provide content-specific pedagogy instruction to your candidates. And once that person's identified, what their expected qualifications are. And so the evidence I found that was closest to that was this posting. So if there's something that I missed that includes more specific qualifications of the explicit link to pedagogical content, content-specific pedagogy, then I welcome you helping us identify that in what's
Sure. When we look at the job posting, we clearly listed the qualifications, the minimum required, all right, there in page 2 if you printed it, but also we have the desired qualifications. We include doctoral degrees, master's degree with experience in teaching that specific discipline. So we are not requiring for people to come teach with us who are teaching in universities. We are not putting this here because nowhere in the common standards is a requirement. We are asking for people with masters, people with credentials, people who have years of experience of excellent teaching. That's the qualifications that are right there. And also we are asking for people who have knowledge of research-based strategies in critical pedagogy, culturally sustained pedagogy, and other requirements as you can see in the job posting. Those are exactly requirements.
Just to clarify now, are you now referring again to the IHE? Because I'm trying to get at question number 1. I'm really trying to focus on the content.
Okay, let me walk you through question number 1.
So, let me ask one question that I think might be helpful. This job posting, is it looking to hire one person or is it looking to hire multiple people?
Multiple people. And
I'm not
actually-
sure
and
that
actually
was clear. That you are actually looking to hire someone in English, someone different in mathematics, someone in physical education, someone in history, social science, and someone in world languages. This is not for one person who would do all of these things.
Yes, especially because I think it's very hard to have a professional that's qualified in every single area of credentialing.
Where else is it? Well, perhaps you could help us then understand how people who are not necessarily IHE reps can in fact demonstrate their qualifications to deliver specific content pedagogy.
I think in high schools right now, there are people who have been teaching for a while there, who have master's or even doctoral degrees, and who have keeping their credentials and who have, by requirement of the state, attended many, many hours of professional development in this specific pedagogy because they deliver it, they teach it every single day. And these people may or may not be working at other universities. Probably not. They have a full-time job with high school, and there's where they exercise their expertise.
Well, I guess I would just like to know, how do you know that these people that you just described have the expertise and qualifications to deliver specific content area pedagogy? And that's why, I mean, I'm wondering about like curriculum vitae. How do we know that these people have the type of, I mean, and again, I've been a teacher for 29 years, and not all teachers I work with are equally informed about the changes predicated by the Common Core standards and how those influence instruction in, for example, English language arts. There have been significant changes recently, and I think that's what those questions about content-specific pedagogy relate to.
So I guess we have to go back to our ability to hire people in our institution. We do have an HR. We have people who are qualified to select professionals who meet the requirements we have. And in addition to that, to the requirements for the job, like references, and their CVs, we also have the interview process. And in addition to that, we also, as we mentioned, and probably it's going to come up in another question, also require an amount of professional development hours. So we are not getting people out of the street. We are getting people with masters, with doctoral, people with long time experience teaching, people who are well recommended. And these people have to go through an interview process. And I believe this is the common procedure of any institution hiring. This is how your institution, probably, our institution, university and college hire people.
Thank you. How are we doing? Any other comments or questions for question 1? Are we ready to move on to question 2? Ms. Clark, everything okay on your side?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so question 2, which is on page 10. Do we have any comments or questions on that from the COA? Using my wait time? We're all right?
Would it be accurate, Fortune, that you are still looking to hire, so you do not have names for every one of these areas? Can you talk to us about where you are in the hiring process?
Yes. So even though we had all instructors teaching with us, because we have new members in the leadership, Dr. Williams and I, and also Mr. McRae, we have decided to ensure the quality, to ensure the expertise, that we open these positions, and we are going, current people can apply also, but we are going to have everyone go through the selection process to make sure that is on our own perspective with the hiring committee and the HR of the institution, these people meet the qualifications. And right now, we have received a lot of CVs of people with doctoral degrees, which is very encouraging for our programs.
Terrific. Thank you. Great. Anything else? Number 2? I did note that was the CVs, were they included in this document? Let's see. All right. Question 3, looking for the CVs, samples of CVs for the visiting instructors.
One of the things I just heard Dr. Neto say is that all faculty, including current faculty, are being asked to reapply. So I don't think they have CVs for all their instructors at this point in time. One thing you could keep in mind is you could ask for a report later in the year with the names of the faculty members that they do select. Because since they're having everyone, even current faculty, reapply, they don't have all their faculty firmed up at this point in time yet.
That sounds reasonable, yes. Member Alvarado?
Just to clarify and add a little bit to what Terry just said, it's the names and the CVs of those that have been hired or rehired to actually be faculty in the program, right?
Yes. Okay.
Cheryl's raising your hand out here.
Member Forbes.
I just had a point of information clarifying question. When do you expect to hire these people? When does school start?
We are starting end of September, so by the end of August, we believe to have some already, and early weeks of September, we are going to have the instructors who will be teaching in this fall. And so each semester, we are going to making sure that for the following semester, we have the new ones for the term.
So to follow up, then it would be reasonable to expect that we might be able to see those CVs and names in October?
Yes, for the ones who are going to be teaching the fall, yes.
Thank you.
Terrific. I would like to recognize we have Commission Member Rodriguez has joined us. Hello. All right. Are we ready to move to question 3?
Question 4, I believe.
Excuse me. Thank you. Question 4, keeping me on track. Any questions? No? All right. How about question 5? One more meaty.
This is Mike Hillis. I'm just curious on that one, in terms of that continuous improvement cycle. Could you tell me a little bit more about a timeline, like when you think data is going to come in, when you're going to look at it, when you're going to get it back, when you're going to then hopefully implement changes if needed?
Perfect, thank you. We have Matt Taylor here, who is the head of the data analytics department at Fortune, and he is collecting the data right now. So we believe the month of August will be enough to have people who graduated from the last 5 years fill out that form and send for us. So in September, we expect to have a report written for us on that.
And will that be an annual process then?
Yes. So we start now with last 5 years, and so every year we continue collecting, so on.
I have a question. This is Terry. Would the Higher Education Committee be a group that looks at this data and makes decisions based on the data, or would it be some other group?
No, the data is collected by my Matt's team, and we receive the report. We do not want to touch it. We receive the report, and then we take action based on the findings of the data analysis.
You said we. You,
the Higher Education Committee.
The Higher Education Committee.
Yes. Yeah.
That points to me that something important to have for your site visit down the road for provisional approval would be to have good minutes from the Higher Education Committee meetings. So keeping track of who's in attendance, what you discussed, and what decisions you were made. So just put that in your notes because it'll help you as you prepare for a site visit down the road.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great suggestion. Member Alvarado, did you have a question?
Sorry. With regards to the feedback, what it certainly could, the response covers course completion surveys and program completion surveys, but are there any other sorts of data that's gathered for continuous program improvement?
In regard to evaluation, this is it. We have the evaluation for each course. We also have an exit survey, which was submitted originally in 2008 with the materials, the exit survey, and this new recent graduate survey. So we have these 3 points. The course evaluation is the most immediate in the process of improvement, because it will speak to the content, but also to the instructors. Evaluation is part of the big evaluation system for instructors. And then also you have this annual survey with graduates that will give us hopefully good solid data and ways to improve our program.
I would like to point out that for your preliminary multiple and single and your preliminary admin, you will also have performance assessment data starting this year. So you'll have that data also that you can put into your system, because that will be aligned to the TPEs or the CAPES for the admin program. So that's another really solid data source to add to your system. It does seem to me that question 5 is asking specifically about program completer data in this specific question. That doesn't mean you can't broaden it later to talk about more about the whole improvement data collection system. But question 5 was specifically about program completers.
Any other comments on question 5? Okay.
Member Chakowski has her hand raised.
Yes, sorry.
Hey, sorry.
It's difficult. Okay, thank you.
I started. Woo!
Yeah.
I was just looking at the survey that's linked at the bottom of that response, and I see one self-rating question that relates to content-specific pedagogy. So I might encourage you to consider how, given that it is one of the 3 major considerations here, maybe consider how you might potentially flesh out aspects of that. For example, planning, teaching, assessing in content-specific ways, potentially aligning the content of what's taught to that of what's assessed beyond the classroom, et cetera. So, I mean, I think the frameworks offer a significant resource in terms of how you might explore how well your candidates can, in fact, implement content-specific pedagogy beyond that one self-rating item. It's pretty minimal.
We have actually from each TPE, there are 2 or 3 elements of TPE that are included directly here. So for TPE 3, we have 3 elements. So it's not only one addressing content-specific pedagogy, but 3. And I know that because I wrote this. So it came straight from the language of the elements and are here on this survey.
I'm looking at number 10. So I'm just suggesting you broaden your conception of what that means and what evidence you can use to track your effectiveness doing that.
We appreciate the suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chakowski. All right. I think we're ready to move on to question 6. All right. Member Alvarado.
So I'm reading the response, and if I recall correctly, the original document included a reference to a partnership with UC Davis. I don't see it mentioned or referenced in the response. And I'm also wondering about the level of engagement with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I mean, I see the letter from the president, but I'm wondering about the education unit, if they can speak to that.
Margaret Fortune is coming to the table as the CEO, president, I don't know which term is exactly right, of the entity, but Margaret, go ahead and remember to push the button.
Thanks, Terry. You have it both right. It's president and CEO of Fortune School of Education, and I served on the California State University Board of Trustees for 8 years. I was the vice chair of the Education Committee, and had the great pleasure of working closely with Dr. Armstrong in that capacity as a campus president. One of the challenges of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo has been their lack of diversity. And so one of the things that President Armstrong took me up on was a partnership to increase the representation of students of color, specifically African American students on the campus. So our partnership with Cal Poly is really quite broad and quite deep. It goes from K-12 through higher education. And I'll give you the whole picture because these pictures are interrelated. With regards to our K-12 programming, we start our student engagement with Cal Poly in their Learn by Doing science lab, where our fifth graders across our school system have an overnight stay at Cal Poly and do hands-on science lessons that are taught by the science teacher education students that are earning their teaching credentials at Cal Poly. In addition, we have opened a high school, the Rex and Margaret Fortune Early College High School, in partnership with Cal Poly and also Consumnes River College. It's an early college high school model, so our scholars earn their high school diploma and their associate's degree at the same time. It's a STEAM-focused model, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The faculty at Cal Poly, specifically the math and science faculty, co-develop our curriculum with our math and science teachers for the courses that are offered at the high school. They also have developed courses to scaffold the community college courses to make sure that they reach the rigor bar of Cal Poly. Now, in addition to that, the faculty of Cal Poly offer professional development to the faculty of Fortune School of Education, and here we get to the partnership that we're talking about relevant to this particular accreditation process. So they offer our faculty professional development in experiential learning. They have offered our faculty professional development specifically in the sciences and computer science, and that relationship has been ongoing. And those faculty obviously teach in our teacher education programs, and therefore have infused that philosophy of learn by doing into our coursework that they teach. Largely in curriculum and instruction.
Thank you. That was very informative. Any other, yes, Member Alvarado?
Just as a follow-up, then the relationship is really with institution broadly defined, not necessarily with the teacher preparation unit at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And then just as an aside, I did wanted a little bit of feedback on the fact that UC Davis was mentioned in the original documents and it's no longer mentioned now. And I was wondering why that is.
I'd like to ask you where UC Davis was mentioned, because I do have here the submission from 2017, 2018, addressing Common Standard 1, and I do not see there's a reference to the University of the Pacific and a specific agenda for the meeting in which a staff from there, attended with the president, and so discussing partnership. That's what I see in the submission from 2017, 2018 for the common standards. I do not see anything related to UC Davis.
It does talk about
just to say,
UC Davis.
As a clarification, and I may be confused that maybe it wasn't in the document, but it was a part of the response when the question was asked about engagement with IHEs, and I believe that one of the representatives specifically mentioned UC Davis.
Terry,
if you look on page 6, where the description of the two co-deans, Dr. Angela Williams teaches, is a faculty member both at the CSU Sacramento and at UC Davis, is listed on that page. I think he may have mentioned UC Davis at the meeting in June. It might be what you're recalling.
And so I guess my point is all the IHEs hire part-time faculty. And as part-time faculty, they're not necessarily representatives of an institution. They happen to be working part-time at an institution, but they are not formal representatives of an institution, right? And I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make, that because someone is a part-time employee at an institution, it does not necessarily mean they are representatives of that particular institution.
I don't think that we've characterized, particularly me, that I am a representative of UC Davis. I think that was more just to the professional background, right? We were introducing ourselves, so of course you want to know where we teach and where we got our doctorate at, and et cetera. So if there was some confusion there, definitely, no, I do not propose to be a representative for UC Davis. I teach there.
So just as a quick follow-up, and the reason I'm pointing this out is that this came up within the context of the conversation about collaborative partnerships with IHEs. And so that's why I'm making the point that someone teaching at an institution does not necessarily mean they're representatives of an institution, or implying that there's a collaborative relationship with the institution. That's all the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, I will. Let me speak to both. We didn't highlight it in this particular application, but for years I was on the advisory committee for the UC Davis School of Education when Harold Levine was dean. And the reason why, to this day, we hold our initial pre-service convening at UC Davis is because of that relationship. Now, we didn't choose to highlight that in this write-up because I don't currently serve on that board, but we certainly have, and that would speak to our history of having university of collaborations. We didn't go deep into our relationship with University of Pacific. Although we, for a long period of time, had a collaborative master's program where they recognized units from our district intern program towards a master's at the University of Pacific. But we don't currently have that relationship, and so we didn't choose to highlight it. But that would show a history of a collaborative partnership with universities. We didn't highlight the fact that, that I was a trustee of the California State University for 8 years, and therefore obviously have experience as a trustee in higher education. But we could have, but didn't feel it was directly related to this particular accreditation application. Now, as for the relationship with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, we work with the math and science faculty who also teach in teacher ed for folks who are getting their content expertise, and they also more broadly teach about this experiential learning, which is the foundation of Learn by Doing, which is the hallmark of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And also, we have relationships with their School of Education as we recruit their students to be in our institution. So our relationship with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, as I say, is broad and deep. We also have a relationship with them for the purposes of development and developing industry partners And so I just want to make sure in the asking of your question, your intent is not to suggest that our relationships with partners in higher education are not substantial, because they are. And they are with reputable institutions like my alma mater, Harvard University. So I just want to clarify the intent of the question.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to Common Standard 1.
Actually, that's a question. It's not. I want to clarify the intent of the question. Are you suggesting that our relationships with institutions of higher education, and also this question speaks to relationships with school districts, of which we have over 60 partners. I want to know if by inference you're questioning the credibility of our partnerships.
If I may respond.
Thank you.
Not at all. Not at all. And this is Member Alvarado. And not at all. This is the sort of the genesis of the question was during the initial meeting we had, where there were questions posed about engagement with institutions higher ed, and the response basically was, well, we go to the same meetings they do, and we mingle and we talk about. What you provided now is a much more robust response than the response that prompted the question being asked in the first place. I hope that clarifies that.
It does, and I just want to ask, are you satisfied?
At this point, obviously you have deep engagement with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I commend you for tapping into the expertise of the faculty in the STEM fields. So keep that up. Yeah, satisfied.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that thorough response. Member Chakowski? You're on mute. Member Chakowski?
Yes, and Ms. Fortune, I just wanted to also say that I appreciated your explanation of the content-specific pedagogy that your students acquired as a result of this experiential learning collaboration with the math science staff. I mean, to me, that's what it looks like when people are learning content-specific pedagogy. So just a nod to the whole cycle of improvement. Like, I would think if you could just track the relative effects of that engagement on your students developing content-specific pedagogical expertise, pre-post surveys, I mean, that type of evidence is worth a lot more than someone's CV in my book, because it basically attests to the learning of your students, which is really what accreditation is supposed to be about. So thank you for that too. I really appreciated that explanation.
Thank you.
Terrific. All right. Well, let's move on to question 7, if we don't have any other need for clarification or questions. Question 7 actually has two parts. So let's start with the general ed, multiple and single subject specific response. Any questions or comments on that response? We're getting a lot of information as we move through these questions, which is very helpful. Looking for waving hands. Member Alvarado, there we go.
So I'd like to commend Fortune for the revision that they've undertaken. I think this is really helpful. This is the kind of information that we were looking for the first go around. So I don't have a question. I just wanted to commend them for revising the curriculum and making sure that these things are addressed.
Thank you.
I agree. The written response with the links have been very helpful in filling in some of the gaps that we were seeing in our last meeting with them. So yes, thank you, Fortune, for your effort here. If there are no, yep, there we go. Member Forbes, I saw you.
I just wanted to specifically appreciate and commend the syllabus review protocol. I thought that was something that could really help make sure that candidates across all of the content areas and across all the different areas of the program are getting the benefits that you've been putting into these revisions. So it was just an appreciation, not a question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. A lot of work. I'm sure it's nice to be appreciated for their efforts. How are we doing? Are we okay to move on to 7B? Are there any comments or questions, clarifications for that question? No? All right. That takes us to question 8, which is on page 17, if you're staying with me. At the bottom of page 17, any questions or comments on that question? Yes, was that Member Alvarado?
So this is dealing with Program Standard 5. And I mean, I've read the response. I get that there's quite a bit of review, analysis, but in looking at the syllabus for the assessment course, there's still one class session devoted to multiple formal standardized assessment instruments. And I understand that students have an opportunity to practice, but I remain concerned that there doesn't seem to be sufficient opportunities for students to learn these instruments before they go on practicing these instruments. And I understand there's ample evidence that they review assessment data has already been done, but there's an entire different skill set from reviewing assessment results to actually conducting formal standardized assessments. And again, I only see one class session devoted to that, which concerns me.
All right, a member from Fortune out there would like to address this concern?
Yes, this is Erin Sipes. I'm one of the education specialist faculty. So to be clear, the assessment course, ESM 207, happens in year 2. So our interns at that point have been teacher of record for about a year and a half. And so in that course, we're honing and sharpening skills. We're making sure that they have that they're going deeper on really extracting additional information from student assessments. But as far as eligibility and the initial entrance to giving standardized assessment, we did that in the IEP development class during pre-service because in order to develop an effective IEP, you need to be able to thoroughly assess a student to see if they qualify for special education and in what areas the goals will be designed. And our interns need that experience prior to becoming a teacher of record, because once they're picked up and become case managers, they're expected to give those assessments day one. So the initial instruction where they actually practice and they give standardized assessment to other students in class, and we do the in-person, this is what the assessment looks like, this is how you administer the assessment, this is the types of data that you can mine from the assessment, happens initially there. And then by the time that they have gone through the year 1 and into the year 2 program, we're really at the place of refining and honing and delving deeper, if that makes sense.
Member Alvarado, yes.
Just to clarify, specifically in what course syllabi is that information, where they're exposed to, sort of technical details of, purposes and so on, of those particular instruments. What course would that be covered in?
Their first introduction to the standardized assessment is in A6. That's part of the pre-service module for the individualized education program development and implementation.
Member Alvarado, yes.
So what you're sharing is not a part of the response. And I also, I'll need time to review that to see if indeed that information is included in that course syllabi. I guess what I'm having a difficult time here is that there may be robust opportunities for, in your programs, for students to learn how to conduct. What's happening, it's not translating into the documents we're seeing. And that's where I'm having a hard time. It could be hidden curriculum, I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. I do see opportunities where students will have an opportunity to conduct, but before conducting, there's a whole lot of skill building that has to take place. And I don't see those instances in which the students are picking up those skills. I'm not seeing it.
So you would expect some of that, some assignments, some opportunities that would be identified in syllabi from earlier in the program?
Well, typically an assignment is tied to content that was offered in the course. I'm not seeing the content offered in the course. I'm seeing the assignments, right? But where is it that they have the opportunity to practice, and where is it explicitly stated that this is? I'm quite not seeing that, I guess. And
I'd
again,
like to.
it could be that this is indeed in your program. It's just not evident to me in the initial documentation and in this additional response.
In our original submission, all the syllabi, all the documents are made, including the pre-service, are all part of this big submission. So it has been submitted. It may not have highlighted in the response, but it has been turned into for CTC and this body.
So by going to the supplementary materials from the June meeting, we can get to the course syllabi for A6. Okay. I don't know that there's time to look through it now. Member Alvarado, is that something you can do between now and the next meeting, or do you have a specific question of something you're looking for that you haven't seen?
I think I'll need time to review the original documentation from now to the next meeting. In that, I believe when I reviewed the first time, I didn't see it, and that's why the question was asked. And so I'll go back and review once again, but I didn't see it in the response. And it was the original documents that prompted the first question in the first place. So I'll go back and review, and we can discuss at the next meeting, but I'm not seeing it in the written response to the question. And it was the original documents that prompted the question in the first place. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I also would like to remind that because we are going through the review process of all courses, so we will be improving, also revising that course now as we start with the cycle of improvement. So the course that you have on the submission made 2 years ago will be looking way sharper by the time we have gone through the cycle of evaluation, including addressing the concerns you have expressed in your question and here in this meeting.
I also want to, Terry, if I may, I think it's fair if we've identified where you can find it in the document, and we've also identified that it was there at the original submission, and there's also been a review by the reviewers that made a recommendation to this body that was favorable, that we have it acknowledged. I'm hearing coming back to the next meeting. And I want to make sure that we are being held to the same standard of any other program. And being called back to the next meeting over that particular fact doesn't strike me as fair, given the level of review. And I want to say that, and I want to say that on the record and directly to the questioner.
I just want to add as well, the document, again, that you have, it is with the yellow face, Fortune, Special Education, Education Specialist, Mild to Moderate Preliminary Credential Programs, pages 5 through 8. You will find some of the material that you are looking for. And I really do want to echo the concern about, obviously in good faith, we are attempting to answer any question that you have. But this document was provided to you before we even had this meeting. And again, I mean, whatever your pleasure at the end of the day. But I'm not sure that it is fair to have submitted the information previously and then highlighted the page numbers that they're on. And again, we're here today, so if we want to engage in that conversation, let's engage in the conversation. I'm not 100% sure how long it might take to contemplate these things, but again, it's your pleasure. We're here to discuss it. And if you look in this document on pages 5 through 8, you may find some of the information. And we are willing to discuss this document with you as well, because this is a part of the official record.
I think at this time, Member Alvarado is charged with going back and taking a deeper dive into the documents that have come before us. And if we have any further questions, we can certainly send off and communication to you through the PSD. And I'm just as you have today and in the documents that you've submitted so far, I'm sure you will have a ready answer for us. So rest assured, we'll continue to take a look, and if it's there, we'll find it and everything will be well and we'll be okay. Member Chakowski.
So I just wanted to also just briefly, when we're talking about assessment and students with disabilities in a larger context, first of all, I appreciate the call for common expectations across all programs, right? I mean, that's the COA's goal. And if and when I look at additional documentation, I'm going to look at how general ed teachers are prepared in your program to meet the needs of students with disabilities through assessments. I mean, this is something that I'm sure is addressed when you address CSTP5 or the equivalent TPEs that deal with assessment. Surely there is content there that prepares both gen ed and ed specialist candidates to effectively use assessment. It's a weakness statewide across all groups of pre-service and new teachers. So it's a challenge for all of us. And so, that collective charge is something that I just want to acknowledge. I think it's probably addressed in various other places in your program that we just aren't looking at.
Great. Thank you, Member Chakowski. That is question 8. Any other questions or need for clarification on that question? All right, that moves us on to question 9, which is found on page 21. Do we have any questions or needs for clarification on that question? Looking for waving hands. All right. Thank you. And there are a couple of other questions at the very end of this document. And we have a number 1 and number 2 about training materials. And I'm wondering if any questions around these 2 questions might already have been answered today through some of the dialogue that we've had, or if there's any other burning questions or need for clarification. Member Alvarado.
So I'd like to commend Fortune School for their response in item number 9. I think that that's the response that I think we're all looking for. That is, how do we continually improve to deliver the best program possible for students who are participating in the program. And so again, I want to commend the team for taking a look at it and realizing that there's opportunities for improvement in this. And I think that that's all our goal, the collective goal. So kudos to you guys.
Terrific, thank you. If there are no further questions on this item, I just want to say thank you again to everyone there at Fortune. Know that we are always thinking students first with regards to this process and making sure that we are serving the students of California through the proper credentialing of teachers and administrators. It's never a gotcha, it's a cycle of improvement, and really just trying to make sure everybody's held accountable to ensuring a strong and wonderful future for our students. And just thank you for all your efforts. This is an information action item. No action is required at this time unless the COA wishes to take action. Is there an action suggested, or I don't see any waving hands. Okay. Are we okay over there on that side, Terry?
We are okay. I just need a clarification. Earlier on in your conversation, as you were talking about content-specific pedagogy instructors, you were asking about names and CVs at the October meeting. I'm unclear if that is something you're still looking for, or if you are satisfied with the conversation today and you're not looking for anything additional in the future until their scheduled site visit as part of provisional approval.
Can you remind us when that site visit is?
I believe 2021, the spring of that year. So about a little over 18 months from now is when the site visit for provisional approval will be scheduled.
So the question is whether we would like Fortune to share with us these CVs and names of the folks who are hired within the next probably 4 weeks to serve as instructors and visiting instructors in the next semester. Is that something that the COA would like to require or suggest? It could be sent to us and provided in an attachment at the next meeting rather than needing a team to come, just to kind of tie up that loose end. Is that something that the COA would like to ask of Fortune? I'm sure that would be an easy get for them. Member Alvarado?
I would like to see it, again, just as an informational item. Fortune's going to have that information, and so just forwarding it as an informational item would be helpful.
Okay. Terry, does that need to be a motion, or can we just ask that?
Is Fortune willing to provide that, motion or no motion?
Yes, no problem. And just to clarify, we have no visiting instructors anymore with the new model that was described, only instructors.
Great, thank you. Member Chakowski, did you have a comment?
The spirit of what we learned about the San Luis Obispo partnership and the NGSS focused content specific pedagogy that people are learning, would there be any way to even informally just annotate like a couple of the CVs of these people who are working with your students to just better understand how these IHE representatives are in fact interacting with your students, so that we'll better understand how content specific pedagogy is imparted on your students? I mean, I don't want to ask for extra things. I'm just wondering, I want to make sure that if we're requesting CVs with, that we actually learn something from those.
Can you clarify?
So you are asking for additional. This is Fortune. I mean, let's acknowledge you are asking for additional. So yeah. I just want to, we're happy to provide you with CVs, but if now we have to go back and tell the people how to write them, that's an additional layer. Now, I got to say that I've hired many, many college presidents. That's what we do at the CSU Board of Trustees. We hire college presidents, our most important work. And we do rely on people's CVs and an interview process. But we don't tell people how to write them. So I do think that is an overreach. I understand if you want to know if our faculty are qualified. If it's not apparent based on the people at the table that we know how to select people who are qualified. But to prescribe what needs to be in their CV for a question that we have satisfied. Yeah. Unless I'm misunderstanding you.
No. Yeah, no. I kind of hope you're misunderstanding, or that I wasn't clear. I'm not at all asking for like custom CVs or anything. I was actually envisioning how cool it would be just to have like your annotation or your program leaders just notes about what this person does. Like, okay, so here's a CV. I don't care what, as long as it has basic components. How do these people, like a little 2-sentence explanation of what this person does with your students, just a little, this person facilitates the math science interaction at the lab at Davis, and this is what they do. Like, specifically for you, I mean, to me, that would be really instructive in terms of understanding how it is that you're getting this work done. But it's certainly not something that I, as a COA member, require in order to be satisfied with the qualification of your instructor.
So that, just to clarify, that was a suggestion, not a requirement. We are just asking at some future time that within the next month that these CVs are provided to us, just to kind of close the loop on that. And as part of the suggestions that we have been giving Fortune, so that they do move forward successfully and with their program and come back to us in a couple of years with just rocking it in that site visit, that when maybe they put these CVs together, having that little, connecting the dots for us with a little bit of explanation would be helpful. And you were just providing that moving forward. Yeah.
And you mean, just to clarify, you mean the CVs related to the Cal Poly Fortune collaboration, correct?
I think they were, go ahead, Member Chakowski, and then Member Alvarado.
Yeah, my understanding at first was that we were talking about these postings that you have on EdJoin, the people that you secured to deliver content-specific pedagogy via those postings. Is that's the small set of CVs that I understand were requested.
Right.
So let me just get to the bottom of what we're committed to do, and then I'll defer to the chair. We'll give you the CVs of the faculty that we have hired for the fall.
Perfect. Thank you. Member Alvarado, did you have a question?
I think this is a simple thing. It's whatever materials the candidates who are hired submitted, whether they're called CVs, whether they're called resumes, professional documents, whatever they submitted. We're not asking for any repackaging of the materials, meaning no additional work other than just getting what you have for those who are hired and passing it on to us. It should not involve reformatting, repackaging, anything like that.
Right. I think
understand.
We're clear. Thank you so much. Yes, for that validation. All right. I think we are done, and I don't think we need a motion, as Ms. Clark said. And I think at this time, that is the conclusion of this item on our agenda today. I want to say thank you. I think the sentiment has been echoed today for your efforts to clearly answer our questions. And again, we hope that this has been a learning and improvement process for you. And we are looking forward to seeing you again in a couple of years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. Terry, at the beginning of the conversation, you said there were 3 options that the committee had. So help me understand where we are. I think I know where we are, but I just want to officially understand it.
The committee took option number 1. You've addressed their questions. They're taking no action today, although they have asked and you have informally agreed to provide these CVs. I'm not even sure these need to be put on the next COA agenda. They may just be CVs that we just distribute from staff to all the members. So they will get those CVs from us at this point in time. And so there's no other action.
Right. We will not need you to come back to the next meeting.
Okay. I do want to say one last thing. I know you have other business to take care of, but I want to say on behalf of Fortune in particular, we really appreciate not only the questions from committee members, but also the work of staff. We've had several meetings, and a really rich relationship, I think, has grown between our staff and the committee staff. And again, we're here to answer any questions that you have. Honestly, at any time, any place. We're a 100% transparent organization. And we also appreciate your questions because they gave us an opportunity to examine ourselves. So we want to continue making this relationship stronger and better. And again, just want to thank staff and members for their participation in this process, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. All right. Well, that takes us to our next agenda item, which is public comment. Does any member of the public have anything it wishes to say out there? Anyone?
Let's give a second or two. We've got a number of people online, and we're seeing if any of them are raising their hands or identifying that they wish to share anything in public comment.
No, I'm not seeing anything.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Sullivan and Ms. Clark, for taking care of things over there. And having no further business, I adjourn the August 2019 meeting of the Committee on Accreditation. The next meeting of the committee will be August 24th, 2019, in person at the CTC.
October. Just to clarify, that's October 24th for the next meeting.
Did I say something different?
August.
Oh my goodness. I miss you. I was Okay, yes, October 24th. Hope everyone has a great start to the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you for